Hello, welcome to Claret and Blue. My name is Dan Rowlands and I'm joined here this evening by John Townley for our second episode of Inside Bodymoor, where John Townley reports back from inside Bodymoor Heath for our Everton preview, essentially. John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Looking forward to the game at the weekend. Really busy day today.
Yeah.
It feels like loads has happened when, at this stage, nothing's been confirmed by the club or anything. But yeah, press conference days are always really busy. Loads of stuff to do and then things to schedule over the weekend and different bits of content. So yeah, really busy. I don't know how it's 6 o'clock at the time of recording this. It feels like 2 o'clock, but yeah.
Villa Park, first game of the season for us. Nothing happened last week. First game of the season. It's weird to be starting a week later than everyone else, but nothing happened last week at all. Obviously, we're here to talk about Unai Emery's press conference, the injury update, and the predicted 11, and the usual bits and pieces of a pre-match show. So we'll start with the presser, as we always do. What was Bodymoor Heath like this afternoon, and how was Unai Emery?
There was a bit of a delay, as you can imagine. There's a lot going on at Bodymoor at the moment, and yeah, that just allowed more time to have some more carrot cake. So it was all good. Carrot cake, yeah, it was really nice as well. Nice. So thanks to Villa for putting on some good food as always. And yeah, Emery was fine. We're trying to sort of blank it out, but we are coming on the back of a 5-1 defeat. It's not how the season. It's not how he thought the season would have started, and obviously the two major injuries too. So it's very much, I think, let's get Everton out of the way with a win. And start the season from here, basically. Almost pretending last week didn't happen, but at the same time, as we'll get on to, he did say Villa have analysed the Newcastle game very deeply, is what he said, and the players know some of them made bad mistakes. I don't doubt that almost every day they would have been going through different things that they've analysed from the Newcastle game. To be honest, coming out from that game, I thought at St James is I don't know how. Weirdly, is there so much you can take from it? Because we did a big podcast, didn't we, Dan, on the Monday show, saying about psychologically a lot. There's a big impact there. Is it all about tactics and whatnot? But Emery won't leave any stone unturned, will he? So loads that they would have gone through over the last few days at Bodymoor, and as I say, let's just get Everton out of the way with a win, 3 points, start the season and carry on from there.
From what Emery said, that lessons would have been learnt this week. That was the message, that they knew why things went wrong and it won't happen again.
Obviously, the bulk of the players, the bulk of the squad that was at Newcastle, those are the players who got Villa into 7th last season, so he trusts them and he knows that was just a one-off, and it needs to be a one-off, but also that Conte isn't going to make the mistake that he made every game, and it's not. Hopefully, it won't happen again this season. Full stop. But there is going to be things now that those players are going to have to learn in terms of, especially the defence without Mings. As we keep saying, he's the organiser, he's the leader, and Emery mentioned in his presser again today about how they're building a new structure. As in, it's the same structure but with new players and new players because of injured players as well, if that makes sense. So it's not the identical 11 to what it was when we played Brighton, put it that way. In my opinion, we almost seem a bit backwards in a strange way. I don't know, maybe just a few months or so, but that's not a bad thing because we've recruited really good players, but the injuries I think have set us back a bit.
It's like we said on the Monday show, that if things go well over the next even 2 weeks, Everton and the European games, the vibe and the feeling around the fan base and around the club will be totally different, and Newcastle we will have learnt lessons from, and it will be forgotten. It will be in the past. I mean, Stuart Pearce on TalkSport today was tipping Newcastle to win the league this season. So that's the level of where Newcastle are amongst other people's estimates. So, like we said before, we were beating ourselves. Losing to Newcastle wasn't the end of the world, as much as it was a terrible result in terms of scoreline. Losing to Mings was the big issue, but I don't want to dwell on that any further. Let's go to the injury update then, and thank God we're not talking about one of a fresh injury. Last week's preview show was overshadowed by Emma Buendia. We spoke about Tyrone Mings at length. Nothing new this week. It's pretty much as you were, wasn't it?
Bertrand Traore and John Duran are back in training this week, but they won't be featuring for a little bit of time, just because they've only just come back to training, and both of them have had they are, I suppose, long-term, not long-term, but they're medium-term injuries, I suppose you could call them, because it's in pre-season, they've still missed 2 months, haven't they? That's a long time. So, like Alex Moreno, for example, he will hopefully return to training quite soon, but then he's not going to be involved in the squad maybe until the Palace game, because they've been out for a long time. So, yes, they've only missed technically a couple of games. They've obviously missed the whole of pre-season, haven't they? So they need to get back up to speed and quickly. but also safely too. That's the key thing. So yeah, as you were for the Everton squad, hopefully in a couple of games, a couple of weeks, we'll have more players coming back and we'll be in a decent position. But you're still going to be missing those two players that have just got long-term injuries. When Ramsey and Moreno come back, I think Villa are still in a really good place though. So we'll see. We'll see when they come back. I think Emery kind of was mentioning the after the international break, though I don't think we'll see either Ramsey or Moreno before Palace. But if they need that extra time to get ready, then there's no point in rushing them back for. I think it's Liverpool away, the last game we played before the international break.
Let's go to the opposition view then. I caught up with Joe Thomas from the Liverpool Echo. I asked him 5 questions ahead of Sunday's game. Today I'm here to ask you 5 questions ahead of Everton and Aston Villa playing at Villa Park on Sunday afternoon. Before we get into those though, a 6th bonus question. How are you?
Yeah, not doing too bad, cheers. And thanks very much for having me on the show. Looking forward to the new season, but perhaps not looking forward to Sunday as much as it might be if it was in 6 weeks' time.
Are you satisfied with the business that Everton have done this transfer window? Are you happy with it?
It's a good start, but it needs to be finished off. Everton are a threadbare squad. They were a threadbare squad last season. Had too many players that within those numbers suffered from injury problems that were persistent. So come the back end of last season, I mean, look at Bournemouth the last day of the season when they needed to win to survive. One of the biggest games in Everton's modern history. They couldn't even name a fit starting fullback. This was always going to be a very, very tricky window for Everton, but they got 4 signings in so far. And I think that they're all quite astute. They help in key areas where Everton desperately needed reinforcements. Jack Harrison, the most recent addition, with Arno Danjuma being 2 players that can help out wide and relatively versatile, so they can play a couple of roles across the top end of the pitch. Young lad called Yusuf Chamiti from Sporting, 19-year-old striker who looks like a work in progress, to be honest, very much of the Dominic Calvert-Lewin mould, which whatever they need. And then Ashley Young, who obviously you and your listeners all know well, and is somebody who brings a lot of professionalism, big character in the dressing room, and someone who's versatile and experienced. And Everton, considering Everton don't have the finances to go and spend money on specialists in all the positions they need, having someone as versatile as someone like Ashley Young, who can play both fullback positions, obviously push up a bit higher if he needed to be as well. That's crucial. But Everton's season will live or die by whether or not they get a striker in the next few weeks. That's the final kind of piece of the jigsaw.
Let's talk about the game on Sunday specifically then. Now, if I hadn't seen Ashley Young play for Aston Villa last season and was looking at Everton's team sheet and thought 38-year-old Ashley Young at left back, maybe he's an area that Villa can target. He's he must be on his last legs kind of thing. He lost on the opening day to Fulham, and he was probably one of your better performers. I think it's probably fair to say, and one that I think Villa fans, now we've lost Tyrone Mings, not that they play the same position, but Ashley Young from a leadership perspective and the things he offers to the dressing room probably could have done a job at Aston Villa this season as well. And we all know this side of things that Ashley Young is still a very, very good player. Where can Villa get at Everton, do you think? What is the weakness?
Yeah, I think it still is probably down the flanks a little bit. Ashley Young, he had a decent first game for Everton. Everton actually played really well against Fulham. It was, for anybody that went beyond the scoreline and watched Match of the Day or anything else, really, Everton should have been out of sight at half-time. It's not even through 1 or 2 decent chances. They had 4 gilt-edged opportunities in the first half and a goal which was very questionably disallowed as well, because they don't have a lot of players on the bench of decent quality. Once you get to that second phase of the game after the hour mark, when teams now tend to make about 3 substitutions because you can make so many more, you don't have the quality to turn to then strengthen for the final bit. The defence is still a work in progress. Ashley Young is still building his bridges with Michael Keane and James Tarkowski, the 2 centre-backs. If you can get in behind that space there, then which obviously you have players that are very adept at doing, and that could hurt Everton. The other main weakness there, and it's less about what Villa can do, it's more about what Everton can't do, and that's still finishing opportunities. So if they do get the opportunities in the first place, Sean Dyche's Everton side have been very good at creating opportunities, just finishing them. So, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, will he, won't he start, is he's getting there with his fitness. If he starts, it's a massive boost. It's a completely different ball game for Villa from a defensive perspective. If he doesn't, then the chances are it's likely that Villa will get 1 or 2 lives in case if they needed them.
When you talk to the Everton squad, there's a few decent players throughout there. The lack of a prolific goal scorer is clearly the biggest weakness from your perspective, and obviously where Villa can attack you is down those positions you mentioned. Something like Moussa Diaby running in behind is going to be lethal against most sides. Who should Villa be fearful of from Everton side of things?
I think Villa, what Villa should probably be most concerned about from Everton from an attacking point of view is Everton's directness. So what Everton will do is they'll be more than happy to concede possession in areas which aren't dangerous. So if you end up in a scenario where you're very patiently knocking the ball around and thinking that you're on top, well, if Everton bite into a challenge, they are quick on the counter. Someone like Alex Iwobi, is a very intelligent player. Should have come away with a couple of assists from the same game last season. But just like this season, there were question marks over Everton's striking position. I mean, Damari Gray missed a great opportunity in that game. Amadou Onana, centre midfielder, really, really big talent. He's captained the Belgian national side. There were games when he was the best player on the pitch. Sean Dyche's first game was against Arsenal, and Everton won that 1-0. And Onana was the player that the Arsenal players were talking about in their dressing room after. Martin Odegaard in particular, after being obliterated by him for one attack, they were just talking about what a talent he was. Because he's so young, because he's so inexperienced, he blows hot and cold. He played really well against Fulham, and should have had 2 assists in the first half, playing in a role which we didn't see him do so much last season, but which you think is where his strength's going to lie, and that is he's very good at breaking up an attack on the edge of his own box. The next step is where he needs to develop. Dominic Calvert-Lewin starts, and he's a big threat, because what he'll do is he'll hang off those centre-backs, he'll challenge everything in the air, and when Everton clear into the channels, he's someone who's got the pace to get to the ball and the know-how to hold it up and feed into players around them. So if Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays, he's the obvious attacking threat. If not, it's less about individuals and more about the directness of the system.
Score prediction then for Sunday?
I'm going to say 2-2 because I want to be positive, but I do think this will be a very, very difficult challenge for Everton, even more so with what happened to Aston Villa against Newcastle, because it feels like a side that's already had a good pre-season and it already looks like it's in good shape for the coming season, now has a point to prove. And I think Everton are going to make progress, I think, this season, but I think it's going to be a season which they build into as players grow into the side, ones that signed over the summer and ones come back to full fitness. It's almost as if this season may have started a week or two just too early for Everton, and this game might have come a little bit too early for Everton as well.
My wider kind of general talking point then, before I let you go, are Everton good enough to beat the drop this season? It feels like you think that they'll make progress, and I'm inclined to agree with you, but I would suggest that might only stay up because there's 3 worse teams this year. The
big advantage that they have over the last season and the season before that is that they start this season on a war footing. There can't be any naivety or complacency towards the very real threat of relegation after having the 2 scares that they have done. And in Sean Dyche, as opposed to Frank Lampard and Rafa Benitez, they have a manager that's perfectly set up for that and has now spent the summer building. It's less about building a squad because he hasn't really had the resources to kind of make wholesale changes, but building a mentality and a resilience towards into a side, so it knows what it's going into straight from the beginning. I think the league is weaker this year. Everton need to sign a striker. They cannot go into a 3rd season reliant on Dominic Calvert-Lewin playing most of the games. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays 30 games this season, Everton stay up without a problem. They're probably pushing towards mid-table. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, but it comes with a caveat that they really, really do still need to sign that striker. If they can do that, then they'll take a big step towards safety this season.
Cheers for that, Joe. Very much appreciated, and all the best for Sunday. They're not too much good luck.
Thanks very much, and good luck for the season.
Okay, John, let's go away from match day. This is the part of the show where we talk about something that isn't Aston Villa versus Everton related, and we're going to talk about Nicolo Zaniolo, if I pronounce that correctly. It's a lovely name, by the way. Rolls off the tongue. This is one that's rumbled on, isn't it? As the cliche goes, a bit of a transfer saga, let's say, as well. As we're recording this right now, Villa haven't officially confirmed the signing, but we can say it is done. It's all pretty much done. It's just one of those things that, for whatever reason, the announcement is seemingly taking a little bit longer than anyone would like. We'd lined up a podcast with an Italian journalist to look at Nicolo Zaniolo and the lowdown on him. We were going to do that Wednesday, and it got pushed back for various reasons. We were going to do it Thursday. Didn't quite happen because of rumours of a failed medical on Thursday, and we thought, let's just be careful. We don't record a whole podcast and not get to use it. The schedule's not aligned to do a proper Nicolo Zaniolo podcast. I said it rolls off the tongue, but the more you say it, the more I'm starting to trip myself up a little bit. So there won't be a big episode just about him, and the bit that we do about him is this bit now in this show. So, John, let's say that by the time this has come out, Villa have announced him, fingers crossed. Are you happy with this deal? We're assuming it's going to be a loan with an option to buy. Yeah. I'll tell you my thoughts in a sec. How do you feel about it?
I feel positive about it. I think Villa need options in attack. We know this isn't a player that's just arrived because Buendia is injured. We must say that at the start. But even if Buendia was still fully fit, I still think Villa needed just things here and there. And Zaniolo, what he will bring is a different profile to Villa's forward line. He isn't a striker, and he's neither a sort of, I don't know, a traditional winger or a traditional number 10. It's none of that. But what he is he's very versatile. He can operate in different positions at any given point in a game that Emery sees fit. So I think for those reasons, it's really, I think it'd be a very astute signing, especially because it's only a loan. There's no risk in that. Villa could end up paying a fee for him if so many appearances are met and things like that. But if that's the case, then clearly is been useful in Villa's campaign this season. So I don't see many downsides to it. He's got bags of ability. He's a really talented footballer. Obviously, the only issues that he's had, I said the only issues, but the main issues that he's had have been his injuries, those 2 ACLs that he's had previously at Roma, but he needed to leave Italy, not literally, but he needed to leave Italy to try and get his career back on track. And if he ends up at the 7th place Premier League club from last season, then that's doing that in his eyes, isn't it? You know, the Premier League's the best league in the world, and he's playing under Unai Emery, a manager that he needs at this point in his career. To be honest, he needs that guidance. He's only 24 still, but it's a bit of a crossroads. Yeah, I'm enthused by it. I think it will be a really good addition. And yeah, just on the hold up, there's no sort of issues with medicals or anything like that. It was just on Galatasaray's side. They were, for different reasons, there was just a bit of a hold up, but obviously it's all going to be fine. And yeah, a welcome addition, I think.
Obviously, a bit of a background. I'm sure everyone's done their own research by now, but has previously been signed by Monchi as well at Roma. I think Inter Milan signed him for €1 million, €2 million maybe, and didn't really, I don't think he featured for the first team. So I swapped him out to Roma, where he had a bit of a breakthrough season, won the Young Player of the Year in Serie A. For various reasons, just didn't quite work out for him at Roma in the end. There's a lot of talk about attitude problems and things like that on social media, and that he'd had a falling out with Mourinho, which to me is a bit of a, well, anyone can fall out with Mourinho. I'm not sure that's a big red flag as people suspect. But the kind of a player who's supposedly got ability to be shipped off to Galatasaray in Turkey as a league that isn't as prestigious as the main 5 leagues, let's say, in Europe. That why would he have gone there if he's so good, kind of thing. Talk that I saw about like him being chased out of Roma by the ultras and things like that turning up at his house. So it almost seemed like a necessity just to get away from Roma for a little bit. And there was talk of him rejecting the move to Bournemouth in the January just gone as well. So a little bit of like, has he got this big ego? Does he think he's better than certain clubs and things like that? And obviously that's for people like Emery and Monchi and the staff at Villa to work out. They will know far more than we do of what kind of player they're getting here. Likewise, with his injury record, it won't be a surprise to them that he's had 2 ACLs by the age of 24. We haven't unearthed some kind of unknown knowledge there. So if they think he's the right profile in terms of personality to fit in with the squad, the right profile in terms of ability to fit into the squad and offer something for Villa going forward. If there's any manager across the Premier League, you may want to kind of unearth a rough diamond and make them shiny. It's Unai Emery, isn't it? Somebody you want to have your faith in and say, I've gone to play for one of the best managers in terms of European pedigree. He trusts in me. If I play his system in the right way in the Premier League and in the Europa Conference League, he can kind of kickstart my career again, for want of a better phrase.
He played well in Turkey as well, it's worth saying. He got 5 goals in 10 appearances. I know it's only Turkey and you can throw that in, but that was the level he was playing at, and he played very well. Just on Bournemouth as well, if he did reject them, then fair enough, that's his decision. But I like a lot of the moves that Bournemouth are making in the transfer window, not just this summer, but in January as well. They signed Ouattara and other players who have done very well for them, and people are still considering them to get relegated. But considering where they were this time last summer, the squad's much better, and I think their recruitment needs commending. So if they're a team that are looking to buy were looking to buy Zaniolo for, I think it was around 30 million, then clearly, I trust Monchi anyway to make the right calls, and obviously those decisions won't be taken without Emery's say so. So I think it's a good piece of business for Villa, and ultimately it's no risk. Hopefully he plays well, and if he doesn't, Villa don't have to buy him.
I mean, no Villa fan will want to hear the 3 letters ACL too often over the course of this podcast, given recent events. But are those 2 injuries he's had any concern to you? When
you have those injuries, the club has to be sure that the money that they're investing in that player is worthwhile. So if they're happy with the medical and things like that, then I'm sure fans will be fine with it. But of course, they have to be worried because they're worries for players. We've just seen Wendy, Mings, they're out for possibly the rest of the season. With those injuries, they're nasty injuries for footballers, so it's not good. However, what I'd say is Zaniolo, he's missed a relatively large part of one season, but I think the other knee injury that he had, it didn't rule him out for the whole campaign. I think it was less than that. So yes, his injury record isn't brilliant, but that's why Villa are probably going to be getting him on loan at the age of 24. And again, he's a brilliant footballer. I just hope that everything settles for him well in Birmingham, and he can, kick his career on from here.
Yeah, regardless of when he's signed, and in terms of the deadline for the weekend, he's missed the last few games, hasn't he, with a hip injury for Galatasaray anyway, whether that's a proper injury or whether it's an injury of I'm about to get a move and I don't want to play the last couple of games, who knows. Yeah. So he obviously won't be available for Sunday, even if he has signed by the time this comes out. There's also rumours of Marcos Acuna as well. We won't really touch on him at the moment because nothing seems to have developed that far yet anyway. And again, also won't be available for the game on Sunday. So we'll touch on that next week if anything further progresses. So let's talk about predicted 11 then. It's going to be at least one enforced change from last week, with obviously Tyrone Mings missing out. Talk me through your 11 and whether that's the only change or is there any more?
So I have Martinez. This is a predicted 11 of what I think Emery will choose. I think most of it picks itself again. Martinez in goal, Cash at right back. Because I'm not too sure about the left back situation at the moment. Obviously, Luca Dean's been linked with a move away from the club. We'll see what happens there. To be honest, as far as I know, earlier in the summer, he was not intending to leave Villa at all. Whether Villa wanted to move him on or not, we don't know. But he didn't want to leave himself. A Saudi offer comes in, maybe that will change his mind. Again, we'll wait and see in the final weeks of the window, but I'm not sure if he'll be playing or not. I look at the 3 at the back that Emery was playing in pre-season, and I don't think Newcastle was the right time to play it, and he didn't. He played a flat back 4, but I think against Everton, where we're probably going to have most of the ball, we want to be dominating in their half. I think he probably will play Torres as that left-sided player, which would mean Diego Carlos has to play in the centre and Konsa as the right-sided player. And then I had Matty Cash on the right. I've got Leon Bailey on the left because I'm not sure if he trusts Philogene just yet. Kamara, Louise, John McGinn, Diaby, and is that everyone? I think that's
Watkins.
Everyone. And Ollie Watkins, of course, yeah.
For the people watching on YouTube, that would have been a nice graphic to go with that. So they won't have forgotten.
There we go, yeah.
Do you think we'll see McGinn back on the right and Bailey on the left, or will they continue to be on the opposite sides like they were for Newcastle?
I mean, I'd play Bailey off the left anyway, because I think you need to have John McGinn from the right, but then where does Diaby fit in? It's difficult to... I don't know, I'm happy with it being fluid, to be honest. I know Emery started... McGinn left, didn't he? And then Bailey right against Newcastle, but then he flipped it when Tielemans came on. So I think there's different options that he can go with, but I think as an 11, that's what he'll field. But then it's up to him to organise which players he wants in which different situations, because Everton's teams, it's going to be compact, they're going to be well organised. So I think Villa moving around, that sounds obvious, but moving positions in the game as well, I think that will be, that could be important too, because Everton will come here probably playing for a point, because that would be a good result for them. So
Joe said earlier that Everton's main problem is not having a striker that you can rely on. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays, that does change the dynamic a little bit for Villa defensively. But if he doesn't, Everton might create a couple of chances, but they haven't really got anyone who you rely on to stick them away. So I think he said the phrase something like Villa might get away with one here and there in terms of they'll miss chances because they haven't got a clinical finisher. What could be a potentially interesting battle if John McGinn is played on the right is McGinn versus Ashley Young. That'd be tasty, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Just on Ashley Young as well. Emery was spoke about him a little bit in his press conference as well. So we'll have some quotes about Ashley Young. Obviously, it was a difficult decision for Emery to make in terms of him leaving, and he didn't really get a send off, did he, at Villa Park at the end of the Brighton game. So, and again, I think you can give him a send off, but you can't in a way because you're playing against him. You can't do anything before the game. And after the game, if Villa have won and Ashley Young's lost, he's not going to come around doing, clapping the whole end, is he? Because Everton fans won't have it. But I don't think Ashley Young is so professional. I don't think he's going to start walking around the stadium and being like, my team lost, but I love the Villa fans sort of thing. And to be honest, Villa fans need to leave the stadium anyway, don't they, before 90 minutes? Because you can't get out of the stadium, can you, after the game?
Well, hopefully things will be better on that front soon. We'll end with predictions then, as we always do with the preview / Inside Bodymore show. Last week's didn't go well for either of us. I mean, who would have predicted Villa to lose 5-1? According to my lovely spreadsheet, you went for a 1-1 draw and I went for a 2-1 win. So 0 points for us both on the spreadsheet. As we said last week, correct score is 3 points, a correct outcome is 1 point, and nothing is nothing, as you'd expect. So, John, Villa's first home game against Everton, got to bounce back, got to be better than last week. What are you going with?
2-1 Villa. We have goals in us, but I also think that we could concede a goal just because I think we've got some teething issues at the moment. I know that's like 2-1 is very obvious then, isn't it? But no, I just think they're good from set pieces, obviously. I think our back line, you don't have Mings in there. I'm not going to say it, I can't keep saying it, but we're I feel like we're probably a bit vulnerable at the moment, and Everton will try and expose that. They've got a couple of quick wingers, so yeah, we'll see. But I think we'll win, and I'll take 2-1, 2-1, 3-1, 5-0 Villa, whatever it is. 3 points on the board, I think, is what matters at this point.
Well, I'm going with the scoreline. You didn't say they're 1-0. I think it'll be closer than people might expect. Not in the terms that Villa are going to be rubbish again, that kind of thing. But I think some people might think that Villa need to come out and make a statement and blast somebody away themselves 4-0. We could, but I'm not sure that will happen this week at least. I don't see Everton scoring. I think we've got enough to at least win the game. So I'm going to be more conservative than I normally would and go for a 1-0. But I'd absolutely take any win, whether it's a terrible VAR decision goes our way or it bounces off Ashley Young's backside and he walks off the pitch embarrassed. I'd absolutely take it.
Let's just get through the first weeks of the season, hopefully with some points in the bag. And performances will come. As long as we've got points on the board, I'm happy. Yeah,
that's the key thing. We spoke a lot about the kind of long-term season ambitions in the Monday show that we did, and a few comments were saying, come on, lads, let's stop talk about Conference League finals and FA Cup finals and things like that. We've got to kind of just get through, like you said, the first few weeks. So it is that old cliche of one game at a time, beat Everton, and then it's all focus on Hibernian, who we now know that will be playing on Wednesday night away at Easter Road, and then the following Thursday will be the home leg at Villa Park, a game away at Burnley in between those, and a game at Liverpool after that as well. So a very busy month, but just get through it, beat Everton, beat Hibs again, start rolling
beat
some
Burnley and beat Liverpool. It's easy.
Exactly, it's as easy as that, mate. And then Ramsey comes back, we beat Palace, etc., etc. John, thanks for joining me as always and your insight. Thanks for Joe Thomas as well for joining us earlier in the show from the Royal Blue podcast. Thanks everyone for watching this preview. Appreciate it's later than usual, but things have happened beyond our means. Maybe Zaniolo is signed. If he hasn't, he will be soon. We'll see you on Sunday. And post-match show will be back on Sunday night as well. And the Monday show will be back on Monday, as you would expect. So stay tuned to Claret and Blue. Cheers, everyone.